Ampire.
Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. I've decided since Tuesday, Callow, I don't know how you feel. I'm not going to be super sad face about everything that happened. It is what it is. And all the people that are super sad face about it didn't listen to the American people. So I want everybody to just be calm, carry on. It's all fine. You know, it'll all be fine.
I didn't know
you're about it.
I didn't know you were going to open this for a third straight day. Yeah, I was like, it's already another day over here. It's already another day over here.
You know, you want to know what I thought was really interesting? I brought this up to a couple people. The other day, it's Wednesday. Dan Quinn speaks. Adam Peters spoke too, but Adam Peters isn't going to get asked this questions. But in the past, knowing our franchise, and we are in Washington, the previous administration would get asked about the results of the election. That did not come up, which I thought was interesting. And I was talking to somebody with the team who was also genuinely surprised. They were prepared to answer a question about it, that no one asked about it. So one, good sign that our team is all about football these days, and that's all anybody who covers it cares about, and we're not doing the old, just dust up stuff anymore. None of that anymore. And secondarily, I do think it falls in line with, I think a lot of people were upset after any election. Everybody's, saw what happened after the last election, how upset some people got. I think everybody kind of settled in on the win was so resounding. It is what everybody wants, and you just have to deal with it. Deal with it. That's the way I feel about it. We'll still be here in 4 years. I'm not worried about that part.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right. It's because it was so deciding and decided fast, by the way. Like, we didn't have to wait 2 days for it. So I think everyone started processing it Monday night or Tuesday night. I mean, I think that's really what started happening. So. Yeah,
I mean, and whatever, no matter what president we get, whether it's a complete monster or a geriatric man who really shouldn't be, whatever one we get, I'm always rooting for. Hopefully it just goes well for all of us, because that's what I'm rooting for. So I'm rooting for the 47th president to do a great job. That's what I'm rooting for. And I'd love to come visit if we win the Super Bowl this year. I would love to. I am not a holdout. I will be there. If the team lets me go, I will go. And if they don't let me go, I will sneak in. I will go.
Fair enough.
Before I get to the Commanders, let me start with this one last night, which was Cincinnati blowing their game in Baltimore. They were up 21-7 in the third quarter. They were dominant against Baltimore's offense. And then a fumble kind of flipped things around really quickly. Lamar made a couple of absurd plays, including a third down run where he ran 20 yards backwards and somehow kind of tiptoed the sideline through, I don't know, it was Crossy Road, the way he ended up getting back down to the one, and then they end up scoring a touchdown. And then it was just kind of on. And if you stayed up for it, you got the light show, because it was back and forth crazy with the terrible tackling of Cincinnati on the Wallace touchdown, which was ridiculous that he scored on. I mean, great play, but ridiculous that he scored on that play, to turning around and throwing a bomb to chase the other direction, to Cincinnati deciding to go for two, which I don't take issue with at the end of the game, to everybody freaking out about the refs because an inadvertent hand hit Joe Burrow in the face, whatever. And maybe Mike Gesicki was held, but it happened so fast. It was so far away from where the play was going. I don't know that you call that there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We got a good one last night. All in all, though, this is a win for everybody else who wants to get a wild card, because I think in the end, they're not catching Baltimore. Had they won, I guess they would have had a puncher's chance, but they're really not going to catch them. This is good for everybody in the AFC, because frankly, while we talked about them when I saw them earlier this year, I don't think they're as good as they've been, especially on defense, and that showed up in the second half again. But Burrow in the playoffs is a problem. So this is good for the Chargers, Denver, Jets of the world that have sights on making it as a wild card. You need that team to lose, because they're going to be competitive every week, and you need them to lose.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're still not even definitely out yet, right? They can still claw their way back. So that's the other side of that coin too. As far as the actual outcome too, I'm with you. It was 21-7, and I was kind of debating whether to go to bed. I was like, is this going to be a Thursday nighter where I just want to get a couple hours of extra sleep? And I'm glad I stayed up for that one, because that was one of the best ones of the year. Might have been the best Thursday night game, I don't know, period. They're not really memorable.
Until next week, player.
They were hyping that one up, by the way, like quite a bit.
Well, I mean, they got a doozy next week. No matter what the results are this weekend, they got a doozy going up, this weekend. Yeah, I think I actually, I'd never do this. I was that guy last night. Third quarter, texting my Ravens friends going, "What's up with your team?"
As far as the end of the game, too, I at first thought they shouldn't have gone for 2. And then I was thinking about Monday with Buccaneers at the Chiefs, where Bulls should have gone for it. Like, we didn't even talk about that game because we were talking about Lattimore. But I landed on, okay, you can't stop Baltimore now. Go for the win. I did think it was a penalty at the end, too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the one where Burrow got hit in the face. Like, those are the penalties I hate that because I'm like, it was totally inadvertent and he'd already thrown the ball. So, but I mean, by letter of the law, yes, a penalty should have been thrown. I don't have a problem with them going for 2 there. I really don't. I think I had no issue with it. And I'd like to see more teams do it. And, it just failed. I do think that they had a couple of play calls late that were ridiculous, like just bad choices, bad throws. 3rd and 2, what was it? The 3rd and 2 where they threw a bomb to Chase where he was double covered. And then on 4th and 2, threw a bomb to the number 3 receiver. Like, it was really bad choices. They didn't look really set. The defensive play on that Wallace touchdown was lackadaisical, careless. It was really bad. So they're their own word. That's why I'm like, in the end with these penalties, I'm kind of like, dude, you guys were up 21-7 in the third quarter. You got no one to blame but yourself to be down 35-28 and late in the fourth quarter. So don't even at me with like, oh, he hit my guy in the face. Like, shut up. Like, you serious? Like, how about all the other things you did wrong? Who you blaming for that one? Like, whose fault is that?
I was more the defensive holding to me was
pretty blatant. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it should have been a flag and they should have had a second chance at a 2-point conversion. And then who knows if they would have got it or not. All right. Let's see. What do we got this weekend? Number 1, we got old school football versus KK and JD5. What I like about Pittsburgh when I watch them is they're not fooling you. Defensively, maybe a little bit, but on offense, they're not. I'll get to them in a minute. Like they're playing as old school as an old school gets. We're going to run the ball with this large running back and large tight ends and our line, and we're going to try to be physical. And then our change up is play action rollout Russ. Like that's it. Okay. And that's it. Like that's the whole thing. But, look at their record and good luck stopping it because he does hit enough of these outside the number shots, especially to Pickens. It's re-engaged him and a couple down to Freiermuth that makes them dangerous enough to hit some big plays. And then not unlike Baltimore, if they get a lead, you want nothing to do with Najee Harris in the second half. It's just like he's a truck. The guy's like 245 pounds, fast. He's like Derrick Henry light, not quite as good, not Hall of Fame, but as powerful, and it gets bad, when things go along. On this side of the ball is where the game's going to be played. Pittsburgh, actually, it's funny. People think, TJ Watt and all these guys, they get all these sacks. They actually don't. They're like bottom 3rd in sacks. They get a lot of pressure. They don't get a lot of sacks. They actually don't have a lot of picks, although they do have a lot of turnovers. So they're really kind of an interesting defense this year. And in like famous Tomlin style, you don't know who's blitzing on every play. They will walk 4 or 5 people, 5, 6 people up to the line. You don't know who's coming. You have to make a choice. I trust our guy. Our guy has not been fooled by anything yet. He hasn't had what I would describe as a bad game yet. And until he does, I will buy into that he's going to be fine. But points are going to be tough to come by. I really do hope that B-Rob is playing this week. I think that's a really, really, really big deal if he's playing this week because I appreciate what the other running backs have done. I appreciate that they're still productive. But the difference on the whole between those guys running the ball effectively for a game and B-Rob is about, at least last week, about a yard per carry. And that may not sound like that big of a deal, but it really is for shortening drives, extending drives, doing the things that they've done. I think it's a very big deal whether he plays. Last week, I didn't feel it as much. I didn't like the idea of him not playing, but I didn't feel it was as big a deal. When he didn't play against Baltimore, I knew going in they were going to throw the ball a lot. And that's why I left it going, I don't actually think it would have made a difference if he played that much. Last week, I would have preferred to have him but thought we could survive because the Giants' rush defense wasn't very good. This week's different. I think he makes a massive difference, and I'm hoping he's able to go.
It's also, besides the play, he's a tone setter. I've said this to you that some of these tougher games where he actually ends up playing, I think they dominate because he runs out there and he sets the tone. Like, I'm with you. I don't know how much of a difference in Baltimore it would have made, but it could have helped set the tone against a pretty tough team. It's the same thing this time around. I want him out there to set the tone against the Steelers, too.
I think, this is a good one. The good one about this is a really old school physical team. Like, they play with a style. I think Tomlin's very proud of it. Like, he should be. Like, they play really hard. And so this is one of those, not unlike the Baltimore game, what Quinn called a heavyweight fight. I agree. They need to survive this. This stinks of, like, it's going to be one of those. It's going to be very hard, very difficult. And I agree. I think Robinson is kind of their tone setter. I described him as kind of gas in the tank. He's the guy who, for them, can provide the knockout punch in the second half. He's going to score in the red zone. This is a team that hasn't performed particularly well in the red zone. It's about 50%. That's bottom third of the league. Pittsburgh, they actually give up yards, but they don't give up points. That's their problem. Like, they're one of the best red zone teams. Like, in situational stuff, they're really good at some of the stuff that we're not great at this year. It's why I really want him back. The other thing too is obviously we have to deal with Watt, player. Last week, underrated. We talked about it a little bit, but that line that the Giants have was playing as good as anybody. That trio as good as anybody. No sacks. They blitzed more than they had any point in the year and had fewer pressures at any point in the year with a group that on its own was performing really, really, really well. The offensive line, the running backs specifically, were outstanding. They're going to need this again. This is a very deft defense with a couple of game wreckers, including Watt. So how the O-line holds up, again, I want B-Rob. Another reason why I want B-Rob back, albeit that Chris Rodriguez was out in pass protection. Eckler has consistently been really good in pass protection. But again, and I trust our guy. Again, like when the free rusher gets juked out of his shorts, it's hard not to trust your guy. But again, this is a team that wreaks a lot of havoc, forces you to make quicker decisions than you want to. Maybe doesn't get the sacks, but forces you into quicker decisions. I'll see what they do with Watt. I have seen a couple teams do this recently with him, and I think it's actually very smart and interesting. We'll see if Pittsburgh adjusts. They'll have the running back come out, chip him, and then go out into the flat and catch a screen. So that'd be it. Considering how movable our offensive line is, we'll see if maybe Cliff picks up on that and replicates that a little bit with probably Eckler. That would be someone I could see being used in that way this week.
The other part of that, too, was I think it was Cliff yesterday said they didn't need to shore up the pass rush, but all they did was go get Preston Smith, who needed a change of scenery. So him as well there coming back, former Redskin. It was a long time ago, but he's coming back as well. And I'm with you too. Like, this is the test of all tests. I looked at this defense, was like, I forget how stacked they are all across the board, not just Watt and the defensive line, but all the way across the board. I'm interested to see how Jaden kind of picks this up because he's been super patient and been able to kind of just get by some of these defenses. I'm very interested to see how he handles this one.
I think Joey Porter's been very good. I think he's helped by the pressure packages. It's the other side that's actually a problem for Pittsburgh. So if I ever see 17 lined up on 26 Pittsburgh, that's where the ball needs to go. This reads more like Porter will probably try to cover Terry more often than not, which means Noah Brown again potentially is the target here, which is fine. That's fine by me. So that's the area I think you want to pay attention to. But if I see Terry on 26, Dante Jackson, that's where the ball needs to go if you have the right time to do it. All right, a couple other things on offense. They don't do anything. I mean, Arthur Smith's their offensive coordinator, so this should come really as no surprise. Like, they don't do a ton of outwardly creative stuff the way like Cliff is setting up the offense here or Wunderkind down in Miami. It's very straightforward. That's probably why it works, because he was very straightforward in Atlanta and everyone complained it's just not, it's not modern enough. He was trying to play old school football. Well, that place is built on old school football, and they have old school football players. They have very large tight ends. Times they'll put out 3 of them. In fact, they'll use that more often than not. Darnell Washington's a monster. Freiermuth is huge. They've got their offensive line, which I actually think is because they've had a lot of injuries there. They've had like 9 or 8 different different starting lineups. So they've had a lot of injuries there. I don't think it's their strength right now, but I think I think it's probably why they play so many tight ends, because I think they recognize that. But they've got punishing runners. Warren is a great mix up as kind of a speed runner, but Najee will destroy your will. He's Derrick Henry light. So, this is going to be interesting. When he's out there, 60-70% of the time he's getting the ball. The other is play action and often rolling right. So I would just say this is a big one. And here's something that, upon review of the Giants tape that I didn't love about the Washington defense. In fact, I didn't think it was one of their better performances of the year. And in fact, I think in a lot of ways it really wasn't. The turnover helped. The offense scoring as quickly as they did helped. The mistakes by the Giants really helped. But they weren't very good on the edge last week. Daniel Jones got them a couple of times. I'm surprised the Giants didn't run the ball on the edge more than they probably should have. And oftentimes they were calling these kind of these pressures that came off the edge with Luvu, but they were mistimed and were off. And he was running around, and there's a run play coming through the middle. So it wasn't their best performance. In fact, I'd say it was one of their weaker ones over the last 5-6 weeks. That's got to have to change here. Here's the deal with Russ. When he does roll out, it's always to the right. It's never to the left. He can't really, at this point, throw back effectively across his body. They clearly know this. So if you're flushing him to the left, you're winning. If he is going to roll out off the play action, it's going to be to the right, which means I think we need to see a little more discipline than we did a week ago, whether it's Armstrong, Fowler, Luvu, who they're using a lot in these spots. Whoever is over the left tackle, they need to stay home, because that's where he's going. And he's going to do it 5 to 7 times a game. And if he gets out to the right, he's actually extraordinarily accurate moving that way. That's where he's dangerous throwing, honestly, is when he's moving to his right. So that would be my little thing that I'm watching for this weekend, is one of those 3, if not all of them, whenever they're over left tackle, they need to be very careful about containing him and forcing him to stay in the pocket.
No, I mean, that was definitely the theme of Cliff's presser yesterday too, was he's worried, or Joe at Junior's presser yesterday was he's worried about the deep ball. And that's exactly how they go with their deep ball, is off play action. Yes,
he is really good outside the numbers. And some of it is he'll take chances one-on-one with Pickens, and why wouldn't you? Because he's very good, and that connection is very much real. He is finding other guys, Austin here and there, Jefferson here and there. More often than not, if he's taking a deep shot, it's Pickens. And if he's not, he's throwing the rollouts often or throw underneath to tight ends often. Maybe Warren, but often it's to the tight ends. So there's nothing fancy about this, but it is hard to stop, especially when they put out 3 tight ends. And they are telling you when they do that, they're running or rolling out. That's really it. That's all they're really doing. But it's a little bit of, what we're doing. Let's see if you can stop it. And I appreciate that as a football fan and as someone who reveres Mike Tomlin for what he's all about. And that's what they're about. They're like, we're going to beat you at the game that's been played forever in the way it's been played forever. You can put down your stupid little call sheets. We're just going to punch you in the mouth. Good luck. The one other thing that I want to say about this game that I think is a really, really, really big deal is special teams. Pittsburgh is excelling this year on special teams. They have blocked kicks in 3 straight games. In fact, against the Jets, they blocked 2 of them. One of them didn't count because they got a penalty on an extra point and gave the Jets a 2-point conversion. They blocked 2 kicks in that game. They returned a punt for a touchdown. They are consistently getting pressure. It's a big deal. In a game where a team that only scores, you can only score 15, 16 points on average against them, and we're an above average offense. So let's give us 20 to 23. A blocked kick, a punt return for a touchdown, a flipped field is the difference in the game. And these guys are having an excellent season on special teams. It's going to be enormous that we're clean on that. And this team's been very, very, very good on special teams as well, but haven't had game-changing plays that much. The Pittsburgh does. That's a really big deal this weekend too.
Yeah, I was going to say the special teams here in Washington aren't playing just to survive anymore. They're performing, but it's not like it's anything crazy. So yeah, that definitely worries me.
If you like watching the games over we're watching the All-22, go watch Belore on coverage units. He's a maniac. Okay. He is running like a missile down the field. And when he connects with the returner, it's loud. Okay. It's really loud. Last thing, I wanted to get your take on this, because I thought this was an interesting one. And it's going to be, let's see how it plays out. But as you know, Pittsburgh fans travel. Pittsburgh fans bring the terrible towel. Washington has decided to counter this by creating their own burgundy towel. So I think the idea is when they're waving the terrible towels, we're waving the burgundy towels, and we've got burgundy and gold going on. So yes, no, thumbs up, maybe. Let's see. Where are you on that one?
2 thumbs up. Great idea. Everybody's going to get one. There's no number on it. And I also have to shout out Chris Gellner. He's the one that came up with this, and I know him personally, and he reached out to Mark Ein for this idea. And not only is it a good idea, it actually is being passed along to the right people. What a culture change. A fan suggested something, and they're actually listening to said fan. So 2 thumbs up. I love that they're listening to the fans here for some of these suggestions. And yes, this is a perfect kind of counterpunch to that. There is one little caveat that worries me. Did you see the uniform combo for this weekend?
Yeah, burgundy on burgundy. Yeah.
The last time they wore that, or the first time they ever wore that, was against the Steelers on Monday night, 10, 14 years ago, something like that. And they got shelled. They got killed. So,
well, I was told they can't win in the black jerseys and then had a Hail Mary in it. So I think everything's all different now.
I'll give you that. But I'm just saying, same opponent, though. It was against the Steelers. So I'm just, bad juju going back to the burgundy on burgundy against the team that you debuted it against, apparently. So
here's a good trivia question. Who's the last quarterback to win a home game for the Redskins? I'm going to tell you, it's the Redskins against the Steelers.
Wasn't it Cousins? Didn't Cousins beat him?
Doug Williams is the last Redskins quarterback to beat the Steelers in Washington.
Yikes.
So I hope Jaden shows up in the Doug jersey again. I'd actually like to see that one. That'd be good. If someone passes that along, I'd like to see him do that on Sunday, since he did it earlier this year. All right, we'll get into the rest of the league next. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Let's get drunk in Germany with that clunker as the 9:30 kickoff is Giants-Panthers, which it was funny. I think Archer said to me last night, he goes, who's going to see that? And I go, oh, no, that game sold out in 2 minutes because it was in Germany. They didn't care who it was. Little did they know they were getting literally the worst game that they could possibly get.
The best part about this game was it was week 2. And everyone was like, oh, God, why is that the Germany game? This one's been counting down for 8 weeks now.
Well, but because the tickets were sold, it didn't matter who it was. So Goodell's like, gotcha. Gotcha. Let's see. Last stand for Mr. Eberflus. I like car wreck games. This is one of them. The Patriots already beat the Jets in a car wreck game. This one screams the Bears should win. But the Pats bring their rookie quarterback there. Oh, wow. If the Bears lose this, I don't want to hear from them again, considering how mouthy they were a few weeks ago. You say nothing until next year because your season is beyond terrible if you lose this game this weekend.
You know how these games go. This is the one where they're gripping it and every little thing is going to affect them. I think the Bears do end up winning this, but the Pats almost beat the Titans last week too. They forced that to overtime and then eventually lost. The Bears just have a little too much here. They're going to win this game, but
I don't know about that. I said this from the get-go. I like the Patriots defensive personnel. I didn't like when Mayo called them soft a few weeks ago. And I do think that there's a trickle-down effect. When your offense is as bad as predictably they would be, the defense can't play at that level. This has happened to Cleveland this year. You're just not going to get – they have really good personnel, but when your offense is that bad, you can't keep up that kind of pace. The Patriots have remained competitive. I don't know about this one. I got a funny feeling that they win, that May has a couple of crazy plays. These guys are yelling at each other on the sideline. DJ Moore's walking off the field in the middle of plays. It's so sideways there that I could easily see it, and those people are going to flip out, and it's going to be hilarious.
There was already a piece I saw, I want to say it was either in The Athletic or one of the Chicago beat writers, and it was like, will Caleb Williams be able to get through the Bears' dysfunction? And I was like, oh, guys, you're not even through year one. What are you doing here?
Yeah. Let's see. After the Colts lost to the Vikings, my takeaway was the Flacco thing was fine at the moment, seemed like the right thing to do, and in the end is not. That magic's not being rekindled. So they need to probably go back to Richardson at some point and just let him play. And that may be after this week because Buffalo's going to kill them. Period.
Yeah.
Like they score too much. Indy's defense is just kind of okay. And Flacco has no timing with this group, and they don't have the skill position guys like Cleveland had a year ago. Bills win big this weekend.
Yeah, I think we don't see Josh Allen in the fourth quarter. I think that's how this one rolls.
It's going to be big. I agree. Let's see. Is old Sean Pepe going to get 2 weeks of humblings? He still has a winning record right now. To the original point of Cincinnati losing opens the door for teams like that to think, okay, wild card, because they're not going to catch the Chiefs. But then they got blown out last week, and now they get to play the undefeated team that they're chasing. Let's find out if it's 2 weeks of humblings for them.
I mean, they don't really have a chance in this game. Like, they might be competitive, but I don't think they have a chance in this one.
Yeah, we'll see. The Falcones continue to breeze to the South title because New Orleans is terrible. They're another one. Like their team, Michigas, just fired their coach. Sometimes that helps in the short term, actually. So this is one of those that maybe I shouldn't count the chickens on this one. I would actually, this is a full-time old school pass because you don't know. Like logically, they're not going to be much better. And they have a lot of injuries now, like with Olave getting hurt, that stinks. So, but they just traded Lattimore. So like that logically you go, there's no way they're going to get blown out, but that's their biggest rival. And there's a new coach. So there's going to be a breath of fresh air going on. And while I would still pick Atlanta to win for sure, I would full on be like, why don't we wait a week and see how this team plays with this new coach? Because you don't know the answer to that. And it's a rivalry game and it's in New Orleans. So pass. But I do think, like, officially, I think the Falcons will win. But I don't know that for sure, actually.
Complete opposite. Falcons are going to blow this open. They're going to kill them. That's where I'm landing on this one. The Falcons are ascending too. I don't think people are talking about them enough. Like, Kirk looks really comfortable now. He's running that offense. As you just said, they traded Lattimore and all those weapons are going. Falcons win this one easily.
We'll see. I'm going to go with, I agree, but we'll actually see and we'll find out. This one got me. Niners by 6.5 in Tampa. Really? Because last time I checked, Tampa woulda, coulda, shoulda won an Arrowhead a few days ago. Are extremely competitive. Baker's got more touchdown passes than anybody in the NFL right now. It's not like they're bad. I know they're missing people, which is bad. And I know McCaffrey is supposedly coming back this weekend, but how much he plays, I don't really know. And that's team beat up. That's a big number, isn't it? Isn't that a big number for a road game for San Francisco where it's not like they're boat racing anybody this year? That feels something's off about that.
Yeah, they want you to bet on Tampa. That's what Vegas wants you to do. Niners are going to win this. McCaffrey's coming back this week too, so you got to put that in. And Tampa's on a short week. That San Francisco team can bully you sometimes, even if they're banged up. I think it's Vegas daring you to take Tampa here. Don't listen to it. Don't listen to it. Just take the Niners.
As you know, I can't take a side in this stuff anymore. And I really probably even shouldn't put the spread up there, but it is what it is. It's facts. It's all it is. It's facts. There's something off about it. I agree. Like it screams, what? Really? And so they're saying they think the Niners are that much better than Tampa Bay. I gotta, like, on a normal year, I don't even know if I would have totally agree with that if they were both healthy right now. I came into the season going, Tampa's really good. I don't think people recognize how good they actually are. And then when the Commanders lost them in the opener, I'm like, guys, everybody chill out. Like, that's a playoff team. Like, they're really good. Pass. This is a total pass because the Niners have been so beat up and so up and down all year. I don't know how you come to a conclusion that they're going to roll a good team on their home field across the country, but that's what Vegas is saying is going to happen here. So I don't know.
Tampa is also a little bit of Cardinals. Like, I don't know what team I'm getting week to week with that team, and they're a little banged up, and they lost at home to the Broncos earlier this year. So,
that was a weird one.
That's what I'm saying. Vegas is saying they don't trust them. That's what I think it is.
Niners lost to Arizona at home. Like, I don't know.
McCaffrey's back.
All right. I don't know if you saw this, but Dougie P took a dump on Sam Darnold, asked why he's having such a good year. His answer was Justin Jefferson, which is so rude. Okay. So rude. So, okay, let's extrapolate that, Doug. Does that mean Trev stinks because you don't have a Justin Jefferson and you think your receivers stink? Or you just think Darnold is beyond average? And plus, at 2-7, who are you knocking anybody else, really?
This one reeked of, you remember when Ron was asked like what the difference between this team and the other teams? And he just went quarterback. And everybody was like, oh no, like why did you open that up? Like, that's what I felt with Dougie P.
After he got the handpicked quarterback he wanted, he said that.
Right. And so it's like, oh no, like you didn't have to say that. That's what I saw with Dougie P. What he said yesterday. I was like, dude, you guys suck. You have no right to tell anybody that he's only good because he got a new wide receiver. So that's how I felt. It was like, oh, you are completely out of line on this one.
So, if KOC has got the ice in his veins, like the other coaches that see this, Jordan Addison has 6 for 175 and 2 touchdowns, right? Everybody but Justin Jefferson has an enormous game to shut this guy up. That's how you shut something like that up.
Right. Exactly.
Vikings by 1 million, by the way, in that one. Vikings by 1 million. Let's see. Chargers should win against Tennessee. Again, that's Cincy loss. Teams like the Chargers, who have a over 500 record quietly because they're not beating anybody big and they're not doing it like profoundly or anything. Well-coached team, Harbaugh. Sorry, guys. Great coach. You can hate him all you want. Great coach. They and Denver have a shot here at the AFC playoffs, and it's probably going to be one of the two. Right now, as the standings look, it could be both, but it's probably going to be one of the two that get in. And the Broncos have the Chiefs and the Chargers have Tennessee. They're streaming towards it right now to get into the playoffs in year one under Harbaugh.
The best news of the week, Will Levis returned to practice. Can't wait to see your boy again on the field. So that's my favorite news of the week. Yes, Chargers by 1 million. Tennessee's a mess. But if it's with Will Levis, I might be tuned in. Because
you want to see what crazy thing happens.
Oh, it's the best. He is a walking epitome of a car crash. It's the best.
The Jets should win in Arizona, but may not. The last week, the Arizona beating the Bears was somewhat predictable. Off of them all week just talking about the Hail Mary and how it went wrong and whose fault it was, and this coach doesn't do this and this guy didn't do that, and they clearly don't like each other. You could see that this was coming. The Jets, it's funny. I was, because I'm getting ready for the Pittsburgh game here. They just played Pittsburgh a few weeks ago, and I was watching it. The Jets just totally blew that game. Like they were up like the whole time, and then it totally just fell apart on them. I don't trust them at all. I know they won a week ago. I don't trust them. And oddly, but Arizona, see, this is past too, because Arizona 1 week can look very competitive and put up a kind of a surprising number. And when they play a better team, sometimes it's just kind of not there. This will depend on Kyler. It really will. It'll all depend on Kyler. Does he make mistakes? That is still a very good defense, in my opinion. So it'll come down to that. I don't trust the Jets, and I do think it's going to be funny if they lose because they freak out and their pathway to the playoffs narrows significantly if they lose this game. They kind of have to, but we'll find out what Rodgers and them are made of this weekend.
Yeah, I would normally just say roll with Arizona here, but I don't trust Arizona at home, and 2 home wins in a row for them seems odd. So I'll roll with the Jets reluctantly here, Not going to be surprised if Arizona actually wins, though.
I don't remember what the exact number was when we played them earlier this year, but it was something in the neighborhood of last 24 home games, they were 4-20. It was like some kind of ridiculously terrible number. And the Jets, in my opinion, have a better team. It doesn't mean they're going to win, but they do have a better team. I do think it was a little telling. The Cardinals didn't sell off any parts. The deadline. They didn't. They could have traded Budda Baker, easily could have traded Budda Baker, and they didn't. So maybe they're feeling it like, hey, if things break our way a little bit, we might be a wild card team or more. Who knows? I think the Rams are kind of going the right way, and Vegas is telling me the Niners are going the right way. So I have a hard time buying Arizona winning that division now, but them making the playoffs isn't out of the realm. Go look at the NFC where they're sitting right now.
Not to mention they've knocked out some of their wild card people in front of them now. Like, look at the Bears. Like, they'll be able to get back the Bears now on that record.
This is a total win-win, Philly-Dallas. I mean, it's a win-win. If Philly beats them, and I expect that they will, it kind of buries them, right? And if Dallas somehow wins, that's great. I mean, like, that's Sirianni's getting roasted for whatever reasons. They have to turn around and figure it out against us. It could be the week from hell for them. I fully expect Philly to win because Dallas is missing too many people and Dak. So I just can't picture them winning this week. And I've already heard like the bags are packed for the coaching staff there. Like that's the word on the street is that's been going on for a couple of weeks now that the bags are packed. So it feels very Ron last year. Like we all kind of knew by midseason it wasn't going to end well for everybody. That's the word on the street down there. So I expect Philly to win. If they don't, though, that's going to set up for a very interesting kind of foreshadowing of what Thursday might be, where their fans are freaked. But officially, I have a hard time buying the Eagles don't win this game and probably win going away.
Big Cooper Rush fans this week, for sure. Because you're just rooting for the chaos at that point. And you have to think, too, if they lose and then Washington beats them, like there's no way he survives that. So I just like thinking about that. Like that's a possibility. A week from today, literally, we could be talking about Sirianni being fired. That's just a fun possibility.
Right. They can't do it before a Thursday game. I mean, that's impossible. But we could end it. If they somehow lose to Dallas, and then let's just say they can't get it together and we kill them.
Right.
Well, then something may happen. And as for Dallas, this week, the next 2 weeks are probably decision time on whether Dak plays again this year. If they lose the next two and they're 3-7 or whatever, I can't come up with a scenario by which he should play again this year. So they'll probably shelve him and put him on IR. So that will probably happen.
Right.
All right, and then the last one is let's find out how serious Houston's defense is. They get the Lions. The Lions are just killing people on the offensive side of the ball. Creative. They're toying with people. Goff's numbers are absurd. He's got the highest completion percentage. They got more touchdowns than incompletions over the last month. Like they're starting to do the things we were doing. Remember early in the year, where like Jaden's got more touchdowns than incompletions for a few weeks. That's what's going on with them right now. We're going to find out if their defense is serious enough to be a true contender. I think offensively, once they get guys back, then I think they'll be fine. And I trust Stroud. I don't know that they're great, but I think they're good enough. Defensively is the question I have about them. Are they really good enough to beat Baltimore or Kansas City in the playoffs? I think this is where you find that out. They're at home. They're playing a top tier, top 5 offense that's really rolling. If they give up 30 to 40 points, it'll tell you what you need to know. They're not good enough to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, this is the one where I really feel like their pendulum swings one way or the other. I haven't liked Houston most of the year. I just think there's something down about them, whether it's the injuries or it's a sophomore slump for Stroud. I look at this one and I think the Lions, the phrase I keep using with them, they're playing with their food, and they're going to continue to do that this weekend. I think it's going to be another 30 to 40 point outing. It's not going to be close. When you put the pressure on Stroud like that too, he hasn't been able to come back this season at least. I'm not like out on him by any means, but Houston's having one of those years where they've got a winning record, but I just don't like what I've seen from them over the last couple months.
I agree. All right, up next, preview of the quarterfinals NWSL matchup this weekend. Bay FC at the Washington Spirit. You'll hear that next. Bram, watch the show. ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Time for a very special edition of Spirit Spotlight with the broadcast crew. Gabby Vincent, Mike Minnick, I'm Bram Weinstein. Guess what? It's playoff time. Washington survived a barrage of injuries down the stretch here, guys. Won some very clutch games. Get the 2 seed. Face Bay FC this weekend at Audi Field. How you feeling?
Feeling very good. I think to get the North Carolina monkey off the back, hadn't beaten them this year. They'd won or tied 21 in a row at home. So to beat them on the road and in the way the Spirit did really was a nice one to go into the playoffs on.
I'm really excited. I feel like there were some minor bumps in the road this season, but every time the Spirit bounced back quickly or they just showed something exciting, something new, despite what you mentioned, new players stepped up. So I'm just excited to get into playoffs and see these players step up again.
I like how you described this as minor bumps of the road. They lost Croy Bethune. They lost Andy Sullivan. Trinity Rodman missed a bunch of matches. I mean, that's amazing that we're calling that minor bumps in the road considering where they are.
I mean, that's exactly how it feels when you say it back like that. They're huge bumps, like really core players to this team. But to see the results they've still been able to get despite those losses makes them feel like minor bumps, which no disrespect to those players at all. They're huge players and huge challenges that this team had to overcome, but they did it with such ease and everybody was so locked in and players are ready to step up that we're able to say that they're minor bumps this season.
It's a credit to the way this team was built. You look at Uwe Sarr goes out, leading the top 5 in the league in scoring still at this point. Ashley Hatch slides in. You lose Andy Sullivan, who's played in the World Cup. You put in an undrafted rookie, Heather Stainbrook. She plays great. She scores a goal. So everybody on this team has been able to fill in when others have been hurt.
Yeah, it's been really an amazing run. And all things considered, I kind of want to go chronologically because we want to kind of relive a little bit of this, through the year. They signed up for what was going to be a very odd year with the coaching decision that was made to bring in Jonah, but he wasn't going to come here until the season in Europe was over. So that was going to be in the middle of the season. So they had an interim coach who becomes an assistant coach. They traded away a number of star players, brought in a bunch of rookies. They all worked out, it's really a wild story that's happened here. So they put themselves on a roller coaster. So I guess the end of the season with all the injuries is just kind of part of the tale, right?
Yeah. And I saw a stat yesterday that no team in the league had ever averaged 2 points a game in their results. 4 teams this year did. So it wasn't just like a year where the Spirit, won a couple, lost a couple, stuck into that 2 seed. They got second place in an elite year for the league where the top 4 were so good.
So let's go ahead, Gabby.
Sorry, I was just going to credit some of the international players that have been brought over to this league that have really just kept this league growing, brought more eyes, brought more attention, and just stepped up the level. Shawinga, amazing player, Barbara Bonda. And then we have Rose Kawasi, we have Ule Sarr. Like, there's so many different internationals coming to this league now because the standard's good. The way players are treated and paid are good here. So it keeps continuing to be a more attractive place for players to come.
Let's go a little bit chronologically. So, Mike, they lost the first match, and gave up a goal in like the first minute, right? And then in the second match, they gave up a goal in the first 7 minutes, something like that. And then they came back and won. And oddly, it's against Bay FC because that's who they're playing in the playoffs. And they have credited, right, over and over that it was this moment that they knew they would flip things around because they got down early for the second straight time and something happened that fixed it. So really, I don't know. It's hard to know that early that things were going to be all right. But considering all the changes, I don't know that they did, but they seemed internally to know that off of that match.
No question. And I think one of the underrated moments of that early stretch was Aubrey Kingsbury got red carded against Seattle. They appealed and got that overturned. So you mentioned that Bay game. Going into that Bay game with a backup goalkeeper, maybe it doesn't go well, and maybe the season never gets off to the start that it has. So a lot of little things have added up to the team being good. And also that first game, the attack was pretty poor without Trinity Rodman, who was serving a suspension. But that's when we saw Bethune start to play like Bethune. That's when we saw Ule Sarr become year 2 Sarr, where she really is more acclimated to this league. The difference in the first game and the second game was amazing.
one thing that was huge that I saw early in the season is there are players on this team who put the team on their back. When it comes down to it, and it's not always going to be pretty and the game's a grind, Corey Bethune's going to do something special. She's going to do something magical and just put the ball in the back of the net. Ule Sar's going to put the ball in the back of the net. And there are so many players on this team that have that quality about them that I think was early on in the season, we knew that this team had something special.
The next one I want to point to is May 18th, because that was the first one we did together, which was against Angel City. And it was, we got spoiled because 6 goals were scored in the first half. And so here we are. And I think this is, at this point, we start going, I think we have a role in this now. We're going to have the wildest NWSL half you could ever have together.
Yeah, and that was coming off a really critical road trip where they won at Louisville the third game of that road trip, a game that was down to the end. Louisville really pushed to at least get a point out of that. Spirit were able to hang on. You beat Chicago at the start of that trip, who's a playoff team. And really kind of with a B team, you played Portland, who's a playoff team, really well. So I think that was also a confidence boost to say, we can go on the road, we can play 3 games in a short span against teams that were in or close to the playoffs, but we can get 2 wins out of it.
And anytime you're scoring, any teams are scoring 6 goals and a half, it's obviously there's some defensive mistakes that play into that, but I think it's just, okay, this team is eager to score. So if we can just clean up things defensively, maintain a little bit more possession when we're up some goals, then we can be set for season.
You know, I think I'll go back to that second match for a second where they beat Bay FC. Corey Bethune scored in stoppage time, which became a recurring theme with clutch moments. And the one I'll never really forget was the June 15 one against San Diego, which was a draw, but they were down the whole match. They were dominating in the second half. They just couldn't score. And then Casey Kruger hit what was a miracle pass to Bethune to get a draw. And we saw this over and over all season, this kind of flair for the dramatic late in these matches.
Yeah, and I was actually going to bring up Casey Kruger a minute ago. What an impact she has made on this team. You mentioned this defense being better. I think she's an integral part of that. Tara McKeown's had a great year. She was back. Gabby Carl has been better in her second year. Boutel's been better in her second year. But Casey Kruger coming in has given them a leader in the back, an experienced player, and she's added so much to the attack, as you mentioned. That moment's on the sticks out to me the most this year, too. But she has been so good both ways for the Spirit.
She's such a mature player, and you see that in her play. And she just adds this level of calmness. And what we've heard from the players just in terms of her personality, too, is she's calm off the pitch as well. She just has this calm demeanor. She's composed. So in big moments like that, she's going to not mess up. She's going to give a really good ball that allows Corey Bethune to get that last-minute goal, tying the game. And I agree. She's been a huge asset to this team coming from Chicago.
You can hear the entire episode, including the preview of the match with Bay FC this weekend, the end-up finals, on Spirit Spotlight, wherever you get your podcast, WashingtonSpirit.com. Check out ESPN 630 for more on that as well. And you'll be able to hear the game broadcast as well on Sunday, kickoff at 12:30 at Audi Field. That'll do it for this show. We'll talk to you on Monday. We'll have a recap of that match. And, of course, the Commanders and Steelers then. Bram watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.